Welcome everyone to the sixth round of the European Club Cup 2025. An extremely critical round here between the team of Super Chess and Alkaloid. Gukesh representing Super Chess on the top board comes in. You can already see Wei Yi and Yu Yangi from Alkaloid sitting on the opposite side. The Super Chess team is yet to arrive while the Alkaloid team is there except for their top board Arjun Erigaise. Gukesh versus Arjun. What a clash this is going to be. It's India number 1 versus India number 3. You can also say it's India number 1 versus the world champion here. And Gukesh and Arjun have had some amazing fights with each other. They played each other at the Norway Chess as well, where I think Gukesh managed to win a game where he was worse out of the opening, but in general they have exchanged many blows with each other. In fact, in classical chess, Gukesh has always kind of had some struggles against Arjun. The arbiter comes in and starts the clock. I think it has been a normal thing for Arjun to come a little late to the games, and Gukesh opens the game with 1 d4. Now remember, both Super Chess and Alkaloid are on 5 victories against their opponents. A handshake. Arjun comes in, and so both of them are on 100% score, and this could very well be like a championship clash, very important clash. Arjun relaxes himself. I think this has been Arjun's strategy here. Come to the game like couple of minutes after it begins. No nonsense, doesn't have to sit on the board, doesn't have to really interact with anyone, can focus in and get things rolling. So Arjun takes a bit of time, and what's his first move going to be? He responds with pawn to d5, symmetrical, adjusts all his pieces. And now presses the clock. Very calmly adjusts the clock and presses it. Gukesh brings his knight out to f3. Both these players know each other so well, so they have to kind of navigate through the openings that they've already played against each other. Pawn to g3 by Gukesh. So he's trying for some kind of a Catalan, but not really committing to the c4 move so soon. And Arjun quickly plays c5, striking in the center. It's an important move. But Gukesh goes bishop g2. Now this gives a little bit like the Grunfeld, reversed Grunfeld feel. Arjun takes on d4 and Gukesh castles. This is an important move because if you take on d4, black can go e5, but till you don't take, he can't play it. And now pawn to g6. There's also move h6 which is played here, which is interesting, but g6 played by Arjun, and knight takes d4. Now can you play e5? I just feel that with g6 already played, maybe e5 would weaken the dark squares a bit. So bishop g7 played by Arjun and c4 by Gukesh. Well, Arjun castles here, which means that we could potentially reach a very symmetrical position. Pawn takes pawn, knight takes pawn. So 100% symmetry here, and Gukesh goes knight b3. Now attacking the knight on d5. Have to be careful here. And Arjun continues the symmetry with knight to b6. Maybe a better move was knight to b4. Gukesh is still in his preparation as he pushes a4. He wants to play a5 here. But Arjun quickly goes bishop e6. Now a very important move, because if you kind of get greedy and snatch this pawn, he wants to take on d1 and take on b3. Notice how this is defended. Very interesting. He takes on d8, Gukesh. And now rook takes d8. Bit confused here. Can we go knight c5? But then there's bishop d5. That could be possible. He goes pawn to a5. And now maybe knight d5 seems to be a pretty decent move, but you have to allow knight c5 and doubling of the e pawns. So maybe here Arjun has to tread carefully. He goes for bishop takes b3. He snatches the knight, and now a takes b3. A takes b6 is possible. Yes, takes it. And there is a threat here. Also the threat here. So knight comes out to c6, blocking this. Also defending here. Is Gukesh going to take? Yes, he takes on c6. Whew, what a concrete game this is turning out to be. B takes c6. And now rook takes a7, chops off the pawn, attacking on e7. Very important now to play bishop d4, but instead blunders with rook b8. Now look at this. If bishop d4 would have been very strong because you could win this pawn and get the double bishops, but rook b8, bishop f4, excellent move. Maybe did Arjun miss this? I'm not so sure. This is the attack. Actually, Arjun quickly plays e5. And now Gukesh can go back bishop e3. Now notice it's important that the rook is here, because after bishop f8, rook c1 and c5, you have a very cool move bishop d2 coming here if you take. But if you see what happens in the game now, bishop g5 is played by Gukesh. He's kind of forcing Arjun to move his rook away to e8. And now in the same line, when rook takes b6, like, you know, bishop f8, c5, like here bishop f8, rook c1, c5, there's no bishop d2 because after rook b6, bishop a5, the rook is no longer on d8. That's a very key point, which is why Arjun has a chance now maybe to make a comeback in this game, but he's already a pawn down. Knight comes to d2. Bishop comes to d5, a good move, stopping knight e4 business here, very important. Rook to c1 and rook to d8 played. A big error actually. c5 would have been much better if he had played here, but bishop g5 played by Gukesh, now attacking the rook. The rook goes to d6. 13 minutes for Gukesh, 16 minutes for Arjun. They've been taking a lot of time here. Rook comes back to d8. And now the best move is knight to c4. He finds it. Knight to c4 is on the board. The knight is well placed. It's attacking the e5 pawn. And now Arjun plays c5. Gukesh chops off the e5 pawn. But now Arjun chops off the b6 pawn. And there's a very strong move that Gukesh has here. Can he find it? Rook d7. No, he misses it. He goes knight d7. He chooses the right square, but the wrong piece. Rook d7 would have been winning here, because after takes, there is the c5 pawn hanging. But knight d7, rook takes b2 played. Bishop to g5. Now threatening knight f6 and winning this if the rook moves. But I think what Gukesh could have missed is this move, rook a8. Very nice move by Arjun. There's no time to win this bishop. The rook is hanging. So check. And it seems like Arjun is back in the game. Insane. Knight to d5. Okay. Rook takes a7. Did you just give up an exchange? Check. Oh, he's winning this. He's winning this. But there is bishop g7. What a position this is. Takes. Insane calculation. Takes on b2. And rook takes c5. So Gukesh has won a pawn here. And also has a knight against a bishop. If you think about it, because all the pawns are on one side of the board, this could be slightly better for the knight as compared to the bishop. Also, you are a pawn up. So definite chances for Gukesh. You can see him completely locked in. But if you see this match as it's turning out, all the games are ending in draws, which means that this could very well become a super critical game. Rook comes back to c2. Rook to b7 played. And now e4 pushes the pawn forward. Arjun comes back, bishop e5. And pawn to f4 played. So rook b2, Arjun being so tricky, he's going into a minor piece endgame. Gukesh takes. Bishop takes b2. And now pushes his pawn to e5. If you look at this knight, it controls the key squares, and it's difficult for black to wriggle out of this kind of bind. But at the same time, it's not so easy for white to make progress. I mean, you could potentially go h3, g4, king e4, f5, but all of that is just going to trade pawns. And when you trade pawns, then all that black has to do eventually is to sacrifice his bishop for the pawn. Now, bishop g1, very important move. He plays it. And h3 may be important, but Gukesh goes knight c3. And this is the moment when Arjun must take the pawn. It's the 40th move. And Gukesh gets up. He gets 30 extra minutes. But Arjun now goes wrong. King g7, a huge blunder. A huge blunder here. He should have taken on h2 here. And that could have given him good drawing chances. Of course, he was afraid that his bishop will get trapped. But we'll analyze this position at the end of the game. King g7 played. He goes knight e2. And Gukesh knows that he's now totally winning. Bishop goes back to b6. It's that unfortunate 40th move which has led to everything turning around. And he goes pawn to h3. The problem naturally here is that you're going to go f5 at some point, and as black you cannot let white get in f6 and then slowly the king comes in. It's all completely passive and crushing. So f5, beautiful move. So for example, if you wait here with bishop b6, I can go simply f6 and then get my king in, and that's totally winning. So Arjun decides to chop off. G takes f5, check. King takes on f5. And bishop d8. But the h5 pawn is now too weak, actually. And Gukesh can mount on it with knight f4. He plays it. He's attacking this pawn on h5. Arjun comes back and plays king to h6. You can see Vladimir Fedosiev looking very carefully there. And Arjun showing a lot of confidence, but of course he's lost here. King, knight to d5. And you put your knight on f6, which is a great square. So king goes back to g7. And Hari Krishna is also there looking at the games. And Gukesh goes knight to f6. Now the h5 pawn is hanging. You have to get back to h6. Plays it, king to h6. And now h4, a very important move. Because what he's doing here is he's coming in with knight e4, knight d6. So bishop goes to a5, trying to attack these pawns here. And he comes back knight e4. And notice if you go like bishop e1 here, then there is king f6. And my king gets in and wins this pawn. So you have to kind of go back and stop this. So he goes back bishop d8. But now knight to g5 is a killer blow. Because then you attack this, and if you defend it with king g7, e6 is again a beautiful move. And if bishop takes g5, you have king takes and winning this pawn. So that's the reason why Arjun chops off the knight on g5. And h takes g5. King g7, and well, Now the important move here to spot is g6, which has been seen by Gukesh, and you can see the other boards know that Gukesh is winning, which means that this becomes a critical game for the team. And now Gukesh goes king g5. He's going to play his pawn to e6, then kind of win these two pawns and win the game. Arjun resigns here and starts talking to Gukesh almost instantly. And well, what a game this was. We can go back to the critical position here where Arjun could have very well gotten a draw, but he blundered. By the way, this game proved to be the most critical one, as all other 5 boards ended in draws, and Super Chess beat Alkaloid to take the lead in this tournament. Sole leaders now with 6 wins out of 6 matches, and this could not have happened if this moment Arjun would have taken, after bishop g1, knight to c3, take the pawn on h2. So the main point is that after knight e2, threatening to come here and win the bishop, I go h4, and after takes you go king e7, very important move. And after king f3, trying to win the bishop, you have to play king e6, very critical move once again. And after king g2, you take king e5, and once the knight moves, let's say knight e2, I just need to trade one of the pawns, and this is just totally winning. Although it may not feel so, but this is not easy for white to win. Black has a draw here, which is what Arjun did not assess correctly. He went for king g7, and once Gukesh got this structure, he was totally winning in the game. So very cool, this was very important. There were also a couple of more key moments in the game. One was this move, Gukesh, where he missed a big chance. Like after rook a7, this was Arjun's chance to equalize. If he went bd4, I don't think Gukesh would have gotten a big edge. But after rook b8, when we moved on into the game at this point, it was clear that white would have won with rook to d7. That's such a great move. Also, if you go back, rook b8, I have this very nice move, bishop to g5, forcing a decision here. Takes, attacks the rook and threatens knight f6. And so after rook d7, it's difficult to make a move. Rook d6, rook takes d8, and then comes bishop takes c5, and you are 2 pawns up. So this was a big chance, but Gukesh missed it with knight d7. And what was lovely to see is how Arjun found rook a8 and this entire sequence to remain in the game. But in the end, it was Gukesh who won. A big battle, a fine battle between these two youngsters. And what I loved is how after the game they spoke to each other and continued to analyze. True champions on and off the board.